Okay, so let's say once we have everything in place, we have the barcode scanner, the barcodes, the label printer, and the software. What are some best practices that businesses should keep in mind to get the most out of their system?
So I would say that the big one would be to, once you've started, you decided you want to start an asset tracking workflow, to kind of start off by categorizing all of your products. So, it's actually a great way to help store them as well. So for example, you might want to put all of your consumable PPE in one category, or just even all your consumables in general, one category. And this, like even where you're storing them, for example, it make sense to kind of put all of things in that category, consumables all together in the stockroom, and then categorize all of your really expensive machinery, tools, things like that. Maybe they're in the back of the room because you're not going to them as often. They don't need to be as accessible. So it's a good way for not only tracking your assets, but also organizing where they are located within your warehouse, stockroom, or whatever, to make them as, to optimize essentially the flow within that room.
So group type and group use.
Yeah, type and use is a big one. So I think that's kind of a big one. And I would say another thing to keep in mind, a best practice would be to really be mindful of the information that you're storing for these assets. Like you can store as much or as little information as you want in a lot of these systems. Our system included, we have a ton of you can make custom fields and stuff, so you can really track essentially anything you want.
You want, yeah.
But you have to be mindful of sometimes information overload is a bad thing, right? So if you have for example, a really expensive asset machine that you need in your business, you want to know, when did you buy it? How much you pay for it. That's important, I guess, for the overall life cycle of it. But you also just want to maybe just when it was serviced last, who signed it out last, what condition it's in, and kind of just leave it there, right?
Just because the necessary details.
Yeah, you don't need to know what color is it, what are the dimensions of it most of the time. Things like that aren't really, unless it's incredibly relevant to the usage of it. If you have, for example, if you have PPE and you have different size gloves, of course you're going to want to track
small,
the
medium,
different,
large,
you're going to want to track those different variants, but
the dimensions of the finger.
You don't need to even the color of the glove. Does it matter the color? No, probably not. If you're just throwing them in the trash after, I'm not sure it's really too important, right? So, but things that are actually relevant to the actual asset itself, then track that stuff. But everything else, just kind of boil it down to just the important stuff. Don't give your employees information overload. Too much is sometimes not a good thing, right? And if you are using asset barcodes, and again, that's something that we always recommend. We love barcodes. That you really want to think about the placement of the asset barcode. You obviously want to put it on a place that it's easily accessible. So don't be putting it on, a piece of equipment where you have to disassemble the machine in order to scan the barcode. That's obviously not helpful. If it's for consumables, again, putting it on maybe a side of the box that's the front or the side or wherever it's the most visible, the most accessible for whoever's taking that item out. That's really, really important. It's something that a lot of people don't think about, but it's very, and then again, in the case if you're using something like inFlow Stockroom and it gives you the availability to kind of just tag just a rack rather than each individual unit, I think that is also really
just
important.
Right there.
Yeah, exactly. You just scan a thing and then punch in how many and you're good to go, rather than scanning one after another. I need 50 of these and you're scanning like crazy. Yeah, so you could just scan the one barcode, punch in how many, so I think those are probably the three big ones as far as best practices.
Those are super helpful tips. So just to recap, number 1 is categorize your assets. So this could be by group type or use. Number 2, store relevant information. So just keep it simple, less is better. And then number 3, place barcodes with accessibility in mind. So make it clean, simple, and clear.
Perfect. You're already ready to set up an asset barcode system.
Yeah.